Oh, hello. I didn't see you there. Thank you guys for watching this video. I really appreciate it. I'm Noah2. And an update. I'm a little late to the update game here, I think. I'm just gonna go over the gist of it. I'm gonna post a link to this into the description if you want to read it yourself, if you don't have access to it for whatever reason. Just real quick, just go over everything, um, give some thoughts, and that's about it. And I'm gonna show the roadmap too and talk about that a little bit. But a little bit of new player experience here. All cleaners are available right out the gate. Some quality of life stuff as far as muting people in the game and being able to toggle voice chat off entirely if you want to do that. Um, some changes to the maps. Burns of Bad Seeds. Destroying the nest in Nightmare difficulty now spawns an endless horde. We're going to make it more difficult for casual players. It's going to be this. It's going to feel exactly the same for people trying to speedrun it. Some juicy things here in card updates. Long story short, they nerfed melee decks. Melee decks, I think, were super duper meta. Every team, I think, could have benefited from having one player doing a melee build, and they nerfed it. They nerfed it so damage and stamina efficiency and how much health you get, like Face Your Fears, gives one less temporary health now when you kill something with a melee weapon. Things like that. Um, Melee decks are still great. These nerfs are pretty small. They're sort of accumulative, right? Because it's like cross many cards. So when you add it all up, it might feel or look like a lot, but really, I think melee decks are still going to be really, really good. They're just not going to be quite as free as they were before. Breakout. I'm not going to talk about this here. I'm making a video about the top 15 cards for Nightmare mode, as well as some dishonorable mentions. But breakout uh, is now 1 second faster to use, which is great overall. But in Nightmare mode, I'm gonna talk about it. I'll talk about it in that other video and why and my thoughts on Breakout. Fresh Bandage now works properly. Inspiring Sacrifice got nerfed, still a great card. Money Grubbers got nerfed, still a great card. People are still going to use this. True Grit got buffed, still a horrible card, I think. So kind of an interesting card, I think. Kind of an interesting card, but for Nightmare mode, where there's so much trauma and stuff like that, it doesn't really matter. Players who are grabbed by a Crusher are now immune to friendly fire. I didn't know that you could shoot your teammate when they're stuck in a Crusher. I never miss, so and I'm sure you never miss either. So not really relevant for me or you, but that's a nice quality of life thing as well. The Breaker. This is interesting. The melee recovery, the leap recovery time, and they reduce the taunt and horde summon animation by seconds. Right. 1.5, 1 second, 0.5 seconds. Right. So those are the states where the Breaker was vulnerable. That's when he was like, he'd smash and then he'd stay there for a second and catch his breath. All of those animations where he was vulnerable are now shorter, which means he's going to be active in the fight more often. At the same time, though, they reduced his leap cooldown, so he's going to be leaping more often, and leaping always ends with him doing his little take a breather thing, as well as he's going to call the horde more often. So he's going to be vulnerable for less, but he's going to be doing the animations that make him vulnerable more often. I don't know. I think it's overall good. Is it going to make him stronger or weaker? I don't know. But having him doing more things and jumping around more often and getting up from his smashes quicker is going to make fighting the Breaker more snappy, more fast, more intense, I think. So I think overall it's going to feel better. But I don't know if it's going to be harder or not. The other thing they tweaked, and they did it with the Ogre too, Breaker weak spot bonus damage has been reduced. And they reduced it for his leg and chest areas as well. But basically, shooting his weak spots is going to, in over the course of a fight, produce less bonus damage. I don't know if this means that the weak spot breaks sooner now, giving you that extra chunk of damage or not. But I think overall, the point is that you're going to get less value overall out of the weak spots, and they did the same thing with the ogre as well. A weaker movement speed no longer slowed by bullets. I didn't know that was a thing to begin with, but now it's not at all. Right. This is the swarm updates. Whoops. These are the swarm updates. You can cancel the frenzy ability for the bruiser. That's nice quality of life. They added adrenaline fueled and meth head, so now there's some different potential for melee weapons or punching things, as well as adrenaline fueled, which is the card that lets you get stamina when you kill things. Maybe run and gun and adrenaline fueled can be a thing now in Swarm. Who knows? So some cards added to Swarm mode, and then the updates that they applied to the cards in the campaign also apply here. Cleaner's got some buffs overall, as well as a buff if a teammate leaves early. The Swarm got buffed. The Crusher got buffed. The Hawker got nerfed. You can no longer like fall from an object and still shoot, which was like sort of like an ability, it's like a bug, like an exploit basically. Um, the Reeker bullet slow thing that's applied here as well. The Tallboy got nerfed, so I don't know if you guys knew this. The Tallboy was kind of toxic in that you could like infinitely like Street Fighter wombo combo infinitely chain a cleaner with your attacks, where you would run up to a cleaner, you would smash them, and while they're being knocked back, while they're in the knockback animation, you can sprint towards them to catch up. And then so long as you aimed good after that, because as you're doing a swing animation, the cleaner will be able to start running again. You can just hit them again, like instantly, like for free. So you had the ability to chain lock one cleaner by yourself as a tall boy and do crap tons of damage, but they increased the knockback distance, and they reduced the circle, the little circle, the reticle on the ground that represents where your attack's going to hit for the tall boy. It's now smaller. So this is going to make it harder for the tall boy to do that infinite chain stun lock thing. Is it still possible or not? I don't know. I haven't played, but it's going to make it more tight, tight. As well as the health got decreased and a damage nerf on one of the upgrades and things like that. Another nerf to melee decks here. Well, all the melee weapons got a movement speed increase, but then bats need to do 50% more damage in order to stumble. The axe damage got reduced. The axe damage dumble scale damage, or the axe stumble damage scale got reduced. Which it basically just means for the gist between the melee weapon changes and the melee card changes, the point is you're going to need to pay attention to how you're swinging, because you're not going to have infinite stamina anymore, or as much. And you're going to need to get more hits in, or get more weak spot hits in order to stumble mutations, and you're not going to shred breakers quite as fast as you did before. So it's really so all the melee stuff really is only going to apply to that like top end as far as dealing with mutations and dealing with bosses. Other than that, melee deck is going to feel exactly the same. I think melee decks are still going to be really, really strong. Controller updates, I play PC. Accessibility updates, if you hate hearing people breathe, when you run out of stamina, you breathe heavy, right? You can toggle that off. Some quality of life stuff for the colorblind modes. UI updates. They rebranded solo campaign into training mode, just because people were getting confused that you couldn't get achievements or accomplishment progression in solo campaign. So they rebranded it as training mode just to simply represent that, like, hey, like this is just a place where you can practice the game, play around with the cards, learn the maps, things like that. And what they note here is that in December we would add an offline mode for solo camp progression. And if that kind of stuff applies to like getting your SWAT skin in nightmare mode, it's going to make getting your nightmare completion achievements way, 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 way easier. Way easier. Which might be really good news for some of you. I got my Hoffman SWAT skin. I love it. Don't ruin its economy value. But anyways, overall it's a good thing. It's gonna make I think the game experience a lot better for some people who like playing solo campaign and things like that. This is a huge one. This is huge, huge, huge. Heavy hitter. I don't know if you guys know this. Heavy hitter allows you to punch, right? Your base, your melee punch allows you to punch zombies in the head and kill them. Um, But the thing about it is that it didn't count as a melee kill. So it wouldn't trigger like Battle Lust. It wouldn't trigger Face Your Fears and other cards like that that triggered off of melee kills or melee attacks. Now it does. So Heavy Hitter is a great card, and it now works properly when you're punching things, when you're fisting things. You know what I'm saying? Fix some issues related to special spawning. I can't remember where I read it. I read it somewhere, but there was an issue where specials were spawning too often, or more often than the game teams wanted it to or expected it to. So they've tweaked that. So it's going to feel, I don't know, more balanced, I guess. But that's a good thing as well. Fixed achievements and accomplishments. This is the other huge thing I want to talk about. Fixed achievements and accomplishments not unlocking if you are dead at the end of a mission. So in Left 4 Dead, if you wanted your expert achievement, you needed to survive every single map all the way to the finale and survive the finale. The same was true in Back 4 Blood. Now for me, I thought that was just intended because that's how it worked before. So if you died on any map and your team went on to accomplish it in Back 4 Blood, you wouldn't unlock your Nightmare skin because you would need to go back and survive those missions in order to get your full progress counted. Apparently that was not intended. It was a bug because it's in bug fixes, right? But so now it's going to be easier. I personally don't really like this. I know some of you are really happy to hear this now, that you can die and still get your mission completed, or like progression counted. But for me, this is sort of like similar to the solo campaign progression. This is going to make getting your ZWAT skin and completing the game on Nightmare mode easier. It's going to make the game easier as far as getting your achievements and accomplishments. And it's going to, I guess, essentially devalue the ZWAT skin in a way. Um, which for me, I'm pretty hardcore. Can't you tell? I wear glasses, and so I really enjoyed the experience of like having to go back and replay missions that I died and the grind and all that things and overcoming the impossible challenge. I loved it. I loved it. So personally, like I don't care. I can take it or leave it. I think it's gonna make people happy, but at the same time, it's gonna make the game a little bit easier. The thing that I really don't like about this is that it's going to make it possible now for players to get boosted. If you know a really good player or you luck your way into having a really good player on your team, you can die and he can carry you and complete the mission and like basically carry you into your nightmare skin. Um, Especially if you know somebody, you can just ask them, "Hey, can you please speed run these maps for me?" And now it doesn't matter if you live or die; you still get your credit. So it's going to make it easier for players to, I guess, in this way, like exploit that concept, etc. Friendly fire no longer removes Jim's passive ability. That's nice. There was a bug where trauma damage was blocked as long as you had 1 point of temporary health, um, which is probably pretty often. Everyone probably had a lot of temporary health pretty often, so you're going to be feeling the trauma more often now. You're going to be feeling more trauma, aren't we all? Anyways, that's about it. There's some nice bug fixes here, some nice quality of life stuff. Um, Bug fixes that are specific to the maps. Some Swarm PvP bug fixes and things like that. Sort of a lot of these are actually repeats because the bug fixes also apply. The other thing, some controller updates like aim assist bug and things like that. A new streamer feature where the Twitch chat can name a mutation in the game, and that mutation kills the streamer, or that mutation's name pops up in the kill feed and things like that. Anyways, etc., etc., etc. So I think overall a nice update. Nothing too huge, mostly focused on some bug fixes, and a lot of these bugs I didn't really notice or didn't really care. Like when it comes to some of these bugs, most of them didn't really cost me losing a match and things like that. So not a big deal to me, but as always good. Here is the roadmap that they released. So we're in November. Quality of life improvements, major bug fixes. We got it. And these are the free updates. In December is when we're getting the new supply lines, a written practice area holiday seasonal event, solo offline with campaign progression, new card type, and new cards to go along with the new supply lines. In 2020, new difficulty. What? New difficulty, new player cards, new corruption cards, new co-op mode, melee updates, quality of life improvements. Awesome, great. So I can't wait for it. And then the annual pass. This is the paid content. Expansion 1 is going to have Tunnels of Terror, and it's going to have all new cleaners, written activity type, weapons, cards, exclusive skins, etc. And then they plan to have a second and a third expansion in 2022. So 3 expansions coming out next year. And with the first one being Tunnels of Terror. But very cool stuff. New cleaners, new cards. A lot of really, really fun stuff on the horizon. I'm really excited for the new cards. I think the card system is going to be really where the game sort of shines and where all the pre-thought and where you can. I love a game where you can leave the game behind, go about your daily life, and you can think about, like, you can have an epiphany and be like, oh man, these new card, like these card combinations, I need to go build that deck and try it out. Like, that's cool. That's cool. Anyways, thank you guys for watching. I appreciate it. And I'll see you guys in the future.